Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Yep, it's the world's most dangerous morning show, The Breakfast Club. Charlamagne the God, Jess Hilarious. DJ Envy is out, but Lauren LaRosa is in. And we got a special guest in the building. He's got a new book out, Who Better Than You? The Art of Healthy Arrogance and Dreaming Big.
Yes.
Will Pack is here. What's up, my brother?
Family, what's going on?
What's up?
How
are
we
you?
feeling?
You look
Blessed,
good.
black, and
You
highly
look
favored. How you feel?
I'm feeling amazing. You know, I'm up here with one of the most incredible platforms in media right now. Interesting time in media. You know, media ebbs and flows. We're in an ebb right now in the movie business, Charlamagne. I don't know if you know, just, coming off the strikes, coming off of COVID, like the movie industry never really recalibrated. So there's a lot of folks out there that are hurting right now. A lot of folks that aren't working, a lot of actors out of work, writers. And so as a producer, I'm just trying to keep people hired, trying to do what I do and create content. Most people out there, they don't realize, because there's so much content out there and so many streaming services. It's like, it's everything out there. I can see whatever I want. But actually, the media companies are making a lot less. So it's an interesting time in the business, man.
I was with Who Better Than You is the name of the book. What made you decide to write this?
Yo, I have been in the movie game for almost 30 years now. And I have dealt with some of the biggest names, some of the most impressive, successful people, some of the most toxic, insecure people. And throughout that process, I have gained a set of skills that I want to share with people about how you can be successful and manifest a more full life, how you can use some of the skills that I've learned that are transferable to any industry to navigate, be it you want to start a new endeavor, you want to overcome a challenge, you want to pivot in your life. And so I'm telling stories I've never told before, stories from dealing with, some of my Hollywood folks, but it's really lessons, right? It's lessons about this is how you deal with people, how you position yourself to succeed, and how you have healthy arrogance. Not to be confused with toxic arrogance, right? Toxic arrogance walks in a room and says, I'm better than everybody here. I'm going to win because you're going to lose, right? I'm better than you. Healthy arrogance walks in a room and says, okay, number one, I belong in this room, right? The most successful people feel that. They don't feel like, am I supposed to be here with all these important people? Healthy arrogance feels like I'm supposed to be here. However, I also have something to add to this room. This room is better because I'm in it. And I'm going to get other people to understand how they and I have a commonality in terms of our goal. If you can get other people to see the value in what you're going after, then you can then get them to row in the same direction as you and work towards your own goal. That's what leadership is, getting other people to realize that it's not me against you. If I can get you to understand that together, we both benefit from working together and accomplishing things that are my goals as well as your goals, your chance for success is increased.
When I read about, you talk about healthy arrogance, I hear your interviews about healthy arrogance, it feels like you're saying it's like a sense of worthiness.
It's value. It is. It is very much understanding the value to place on yourself, right? And you understand, Charlamagne, because you talk about mental health a lot. We all have this drumbeat in our head, right? And it can be a negative drumbeat of, I'm not ready, I'm not worthy, I don't have the skills, I'm not prepared. The more and more you tell yourself that, the louder those voices get. But there's a confidence muscle that you can build, that you can grow by telling yourself the exact opposite, that I am worthy, right? That I am prepared. But it's really about assigning value. The thing I say to people is that understand from the time you are born until the time you leave this earth, you are building your brand. Everything you do, right? I mean, you can't make mistakes. Everybody does. But every decision you make and everything you do is building your brand, and it is telling people what value to assign to you. Whether that's somebody that is looking to invest in you, looking to date you, looking to just hang out with you. You are telling them what your value is. And you have to be healthily arrogant in the way that you force other people to recognize your value.
Damn.
Yeah.
So if you don't have nobody, does that mean you're not worth nothing?
Well, I'm not going to say that. Well, you mean like a relationship?
Yeah.
Well, that just means that you have to be sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that understand your value.
Quality.
It might mean that you're worth more than people want to give you credit for.
Talk about it.
It might mean you're single because other people don't recognize your value and you're not willing to compromise for it.
You had something to say, Charlamagne?
What? A hit dog will holler, won't they?
No,
I'm
keep spinning that little sassy neck this way.
I'm just asking the brother a
Why
question.
is Charlamagne's neck sassy?
You saw it coming this way, though, didn't you? You did.
It was the sassiness of the neck that caught me off guard.
The hair whip. That's what
is that what it is? Are you whipping your hair back and forth?
I was not whipping my hair at all.
What's happening?
I was just asking you a question because I like what you're talking about.
Okay, all right. Well, yes, absolutely. So if somebody happens to be an amazing, beautiful single sister, I don't know, the relationship status of everybody here, but let's just say present company.
You keep looking over there, though. Why?
Well,
like,
because
you didn't look at Jess. Why you look at
you know why I look at her? Because she said you had a sassy neck. So she is immediately the most entertaining person at this table.
I want to ask you about imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And when did you get past that, or where did you deal with that at all yourself?
Absolutely deal with it. Everybody deals with it. Everybody gets to a point where they feel like, yo, do I belong, right? Do I deserve to be in the most important spaces? And I've been very, very fortunate to be in some incredible rooms with some people that are, some of the most powerful people from around the world. And as I said, what I realize is that when I walk in those rooms, I cannot question if I'm supposed to be there. I need to realize, what is it that I have that nobody else in this room has? And how can I double down on that, right? So, Black man, African-American filmmaker in Hollywood, not a lot of folks at my level in the rooms that I'm in. Oftentimes, it's all white people in those rooms. What I choose to do, instead of saying, okay, I'm the only black person in this room, I know they racist, I know they looking at me a certain way, I know they have a negative perception. I'm walking in the room and I'm thinking, okay, you know what? I'm bringing something that nobody else can bring. When I talk about my perspective, when I talk about my audience, when I talk about my community, nobody else can debate me on that. Because I'm the only one with that lived experience. Whatever it is in the rooms and the circles that you're in, what's the unique thing that you have? And then you triple down on that. That will help with that imposter syndrome. The other thing is that you have to understand, you don't have to be somebody that's just born with an overabundance of confidence. It's something that you can build. But you do have to build it by putting a success with a success with a success, right? Just like A-Ball MJG said, check with a check with a check. You got to build the successes. And sometimes to do that, you got to come back and not say, okay, my first success has to be so big, right? Just accomplish something. I call it fabricating momentum. I believe that sometimes we get stuck on the first rung. The very first thing, I'm trying to get started. I don't have any money. I don't know people. I don't have a network. That's okay, right? Don't make the first thing you're trying to do to climb the mountain, right? That's a lot. That's a momentous task. Make the first thing, buy the shoes, hiking boots, then buy a rope, then drive by the mountain and look at it. Well, you've done 3 things, right? Get started. Do something. That helps to build that confidence. We all need that.
You have a chapter in the book, I think it's chapter 20. Yeah, chapter 21. All you need is one white guy.
Yeah.
Get into that chapter a little bit, because I know you just mentioned being the only in the room and kind of dealing with that. Talk to us a bit, put in that chapter and why, and kind of what your experience has been and why you titled it that.
Yeah, the chapter, sometimes all you need is one white guy. And it's actually, the irony of it is that I'm saying that what you need is an advocate, right? Everybody does. Nobody, I don't care who they are, how successful they are, nobody does it by themselves. What I'm saying is that your person may not be white, may not be a guy, right? And so when I came into Hollywood, there was a white executive. It was a white gay executive. He used to tell me that he felt like he was trapped in the body of a black woman. I said, okay, his name was Clint Culpepper. I said, Clint, first of all, don't tell nobody else that. Second of all, we can get you some therapy to unpack that. But he was somebody that was an advocate.
Could he play spades?
He didn't play spades. Okay. He didn't know how to play. He didn't go to FAMU or nothing like that. But what I said was, he wanted to make movies that were aimed at African-American culture. And I was interested in being an African-American storyteller. I made him look good to the studio. And so he then, in turn, gave me more power and more movies. Remember that advocacy is a two-way street. Oftentimes, we have our hands out. I need somebody to help me. What can you do for me? The best way to get help and the best way to find your advocate, right? Your quote unquote one white guy. I don't care what it looked like. It could look like Charlamagne, it could look like Jess. It doesn't matter. The point is, to get that one person, you got to add value to them. Make them look smart. Figure out what it is that they need. And then once you're able to help them, they're going to want to continue to help you, right? This guy wanted to make movies that were similar to the ones I made. I made him look smart because I was able to make them for a certain number and they overperformed in terms of their budget. And so we made a bunch of movies together, right? But you got to figure out that person that you need. You got to find that one person. Nobody does it by themselves. And whatever that person is, figure out how you can add value to their lives. Don't just think about, what can you do for me? What can you do for me? No, that's not how the people at the top level think.
Did he get out your way? Did he let you create? Or
He absolutely did.
Okay.
Yeah. And it became a very symbiotic relationship. It was a two-way street, right? So he went out and got financing from Sony Pictures for the movie. Some of the early, like if you look at my Think Like a Man's, No Good Deeds, Obsessed, Takers, anybody remembers those movies? Those are all movies that opened #1 at the box office. Those are movies that I made when I was at Sony Pictures, and these are movies that he financed. But our very first one, it was called The Gospel, right? The Gospel, it was a gospel music movie. It had starred Idris Elba. It was Idris' first movie off the wire. Boris Kodjoe had all the gospel stars in it, from Kirk Franklin, Yolanda Adams, Fred Hammond, everybody. And he gave me a budget to go out and do that movie totally on my own. I did not go spend the money frivolously, and I did not go spend the money and not return it. I went out, spent that money on a $3 million movie, and it made $15 million. It's not all the money in the world, but that's 5 times what they spent on it. So he looked good at the studio. And so they said, oh, that's great. Who is this guy that you're working with? Clint. He said, oh, yeah, that's my guy. We want to make something else. And he continued to feed me as I continued to make him look good.
Dope.
Now, your book is motivational and inspirational, right? But it leans on comedy, too. And you love comedy because the interesting thing is the quotes. You got the quotes from Kevin, Issa,
Kerry Washington,
Idris Elba,
Idris.
too, right?
Yeah.
What made you do that? That's funny.
Idris' quote is that I did not authauthorize Will Packer to use my name in this book, and he did it anyway. That tells you all you need to know about Will Packer. That's 100% true. All those quotes are true because I come at Kevin pretty hard, and so he said, you know what? I don't have to like this, and I don't have to laugh at it. So if you look at the quotes, I reached out to my industry friends, and I said, just be honest. Steve Harvey's quote is, buy my book first and then buy Will's.
That's hilarious.
You know what I'm saying?
Good. That's how you plug yourself.
That's very much how Steve acts. Yeah. But, for me, it is told through humor. It's told through comedy. I have had an incredible career. I look back, and I can't believe it's been 30 years in the game. I can't believe I've had the success I've had. That is because of the people listening to the show. It's because of you all let me come on the show. It's because of the support of the audience. But the reality is that I have been through some shit, man. And so telling it, now I can look back with levity and with light. And now I'm saying, okay, learn from what I went through. You know what I'm saying? Learn from that moment when Kevin Hart left me on the set of Ride Alone to go shoot a stand-up special and almost sunk the whole movie.
Dang.
You know what I mean?
I don't want to hear you talk bad about Kevin no more after reading chapter 22.
Which was chapter 22?
Chapter 22, if all else fails, open a fruit stand. The benefits of fearlessness.
Yes.
And I don't want to give it all away.
Yeah.
But I'll just say, you got into Jamaica with an expired passport.
I snuck into a foreign country.
And you called Shayla to fix that problem for you. Going
did.
into a country with an expired passport isn't fearlessness, it's criminal.
It was not the smartest thing I've ever
you
done.
got Shayla behind you.
No, that's criminal. And it was
Shout
Shayla
out.
had just started.
Shout out to Shayla. It was, you know what? The point of that, when you read that chapter, sir.
Is sometimes you can get away with crime.
No, that is not the point of it. And that is not what it was. It was the fact that I was first, it was one of my first dates with this new woman that I had met. I met this amazing woman named Heather.
Damn,
And
you sneaking into the country
You know
for
what I'm
sure.
saying?
listen, you know what it was, Jess? We got to the counter and my passport was expired because with a passport, it's like 7-8 years or something, right?
Yeah.
That's good, but that's also the problem. You don't think about it.
Right.
I got to that counter and they said my passport was expired. This is my first trip out of town and I'm trying to be impressive. And she looking at me like, oh, I'm with that guy? I'm with the guy that don't even have an active passport and don't check this stuff out?
And you will pack
What? So I was like, I got to figure this out. So I do tell the story about how I snuck in. The bad thing was that I was able to get out of America and I didn't think about the fact that once I got into the country, my passport was still expired. And I would have preferred to be in American jail versus a Jamaican jail. So I kind of didn't think it all the way through. But here's the point. We all have situations, right? Life is hard, where we have to then decide after we are in a situation that we can't control. Because once I got into Jamaica, I was there. I had the best vacation ever. Because at that point, you got to go hard. So I encourage people, right? There are times when you get into a situation that you just got to say, you know what? There's nothing I can do but live my life to the fullest in this moment. Don't stress about it. Don't get anxiety about it. Once you're in it, once I was in Jamaica and I snuck in, I knew I might go to jail. I said, yo, I'm going to have a good ass time.
Well, you had to go hard because her group chat, you wanted to tell her friends.
No, definitely not.
Passport, like what?
But I locked that down after. She's my wife now.
That's right.
That's Heather. She is here with me right now.
But look, did you tell your friends?
Yes.
She told us as soon as it happened.
Heather, you were an accomplice. I just want you to know that.
Oh yeah, Heather definitely. Yeah, she had to flirt with the Jamaican dude to help us get into the country. I
didn't want to say all that.
No, I did. I definitely threw my wife out there. It's not one of my proudest moments. I said, baby, you got to do what you got to do.
When Kev wanted to go do his stand-up and go to the party afterwards, yes, we here now.
Kev was completely irresponsible. Do not try to defend that man. He was irresponsible. He knew exactly what he was doing. It was the biggest movie of our careers, and he overbooked himself. Come on, man.
That was the biggest moment of your career or life with Heather. You 15 years later.
It was, and it panned out.
Exactly.
And one thing I will say about Kev, if anything, he works too hard. Right? It wasn't malicious in what he did. He overbooked because he does work too hard, and that's the other thing. The most successful people who have accomplished things that you may look and say, how do I get there? The only difference between them and you is just that they haven't stopped. That's it. They just keep going. They've made all kinds of mistakes, right? They've had to pivot. And I always say, giving up and quitting are two different things. Never, ever, ever give up, but you can quit. Right? You might be doing something the wrong way. You might need to quit. Everybody I know that's really successful has quit doing something some way and pivoted. The power of the pivot. But never give up.
I want to get to the art of the pivot, but first I want to ask you about the chapter that says stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Just make it wide. You know, lean into your thing.
Yes.
How does one avoid being typecasted by leaning into their thing, and when do you know the pivot?
Yeah. You know, the whole point of that chapter is about when you have something that you do really, really well. Because many times people are afraid of being locked into something that people will think that's all I can do, right? But if you do that thing and you do it really, really well, do not stop, okay? Don't stop. The most successful people have a thing that they do and they do it well. Then they use the ability to be successful in a lane to go out and do something else. I'm only able to write this book with a major publisher because I've been very successful in a particular medium, right? True. Now I'm able to go and do other things. So don't worry about that. Oh, well, I can do so much other stuff. What's the thing you do really well? Do that. Triple down on that. Be the best person in that particular field. And by the way, find your passion within that, right? Too many times people are telling me, well, I'm not passionate about something. I got to wait to find my passion and before I go out and, work really hard. And I'm telling you, you're building your brand from day one. Work hard today. I didn't have a passion to be a filmmaker. I will admit that. But
really?
I did not. That was not my dream growing up. But I found that I was really good at knowing how to hire actors and raise money and self-distribute. And then I found the passion in storytelling later. So I found the thing I was really, really good at, and then I found my passion within it. I encourage people to do that. Don't worry about being typecast. Stay in your lane, but you can make it wide, right? I'm not trying to pigeonhole you, and I'm not trying to limit what you can do, but stay in your lane. Too often, we are trying to do too much, and now you can't be the person that's doing everything the best. That is just not how humans work. What's the thing you do well? Triple down on that.
So you don't pivot. So once you've leaned into your thing and you find that thing, there's never a pivot from that thing.
It can be a pivot where you use that thing. You use your ability. You use your brand. You use the fact that you have got credibility in a particular space. You have done the exact same thing. You use the fact that you have credibility in one lane in order to then expand your lane, right? But it should still all be about, this is the thing that I do. That's why I say, stay in your lane, but make your lane wide.
Is there ever a time where because I remember when you told the story about Kevin with the last time you guys were here.
Yeah.
And now I'm seeing it in context of this book of who better than you? And I feel like in that moment he had the arrogance to be like, I can do both of these. I'm going to be fine and it's all going to work out. But things like that can kind of get pretty tricky because what if it hadn't have worked out?
Right.
Is there ever a moment where you have to tell somebody who's coming to you for this type of who better than you advice, maybe this is not it for you right now. Maybe there's someone better than you right now, but that doesn't mean later you might not be able to have that who better than you arrogance.
You have to be honest with yourself, number one, right? We live in a world where people think either they are too great or they are too awful. Rudyard Kipling has a poem called If, and my favorite stanza in that poem is, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same. That is saying that both triumph and disaster are imposters. Neither of them are real, right? Too many times, because we post something on social media, everybody tell you, oh my God, you're the greatest thing ever, it's so good, or the opposite. They just hating on you, telling you how awful you are. Neither of that is true. You got to stay even keeled. So the first thing you got to do is be honest about you and your skill set. It's the only way you're going to get better. Don't worry about external factors. You got to have a very honest conversation. One of the things I talk about in the book is how we have to make sure, I'm a daily affirmation type of person. You're there encouraging yourself, right? Giving yourself positivity, telling yourself how you're ready, how you're prepared, what you can do, but also being very, very honest with yourself. I don't care what you tell the world. Don't lie to yourself. Lie to your mama, lie to your cousin, lie to your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. Do not lie to yourself. Be very, very clear about what it is that you do well.
You know, yeah, I want to talk to you about the Packer family motto, too. If you want to have what others won't, you have to do what others don't.
Yeah.
Wait, I see you got your mom with you. Did that come from her? Or?
I got moms. Okay. You know what? It's something that mom instilled in me. You know, when I was growing up, mom and dad, they took me like Simba and the Lion King and lifted me up and said, you know, whatever the sun touches is yours, son. Like, I encourage my folks with kids, do that. Tell your kids, because that's when they're the most impressionable. Tell them they can do anything. Mm-hmm. They told me that, and so I was very audacious growing up. With my family, it's me, my wife, we have 4 children, so that's the 6-pack. If you want to have what others don't, you have to be willing to do what others won't, period. That is the mantra. The mantra is that understand whatever it is that you want to do, if anybody else can do it, then it's not special. You're not going to get it, right? You're not going to get something that's unique. You got to be willing to do what others are not to get that thing. And I believe that the more you do hard things, the better you become at hard things. The more hard things you do, the easier hard things become. So don't run from doing hard things. Don't run from doing the things that everybody else says is crazy. That's the only way you're going to get strength and to build that muscle is by doing those hard things. That's why I say dream big, because your dream has got to be so big, because there's going to be challenges along the way. It's got to be so big that it pushes you past those challenges inevitably, because if the dream is just a mediocre dream, like, man, it'd be kind of cool to do that, then when you run into a speed bump that's really hard, you're going to say, you know what, it ain't worth it. I'm cool. Right? But if the dream is so big, right? I mean, so big, 4K HD, like super crazy, beyond your wildest dreams big, then when you do hit that hard moment, those challenges, you know it's worth it to keep going and keep fighting because the dream is big enough.
Is Will Packer allowed to turn his own book into a movie?
Yeah.
Or a limited series?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm Will Packer.
Okay.
You know,
Did you think about doing
I
that
could
yet?
do that.
I saw Heather in the background. Is that?
You know, what Heather say in the background?
I don't know. I just saw something.
Oh.
It was.
Really?
Oh, I was giving a lean like maybe no, don't do it right now or something.
You know what? I made this book not to turn into a movie or a TV show. You never say never, because you know one of my biggest movies is Think Like a Man. And Steve Harvey will tell you he never thought of that as a movie. Never. He never wrote it for that. I wrote this to give the master mentorship that I didn't have. I have people coming to me a lot and saying, tell me about your success story. Tell me about your failures. Tell me about what you had to overcome. And so when I tell these stories, right, and I talk about, you know, Beyonce turning me down 5 times or Idris Elba, you know, almost not walking the carpet at the first Emmys and how you get past that. Like when I tell these stories, I'm doing that so that other people can benefit from them. So I could turn it into a movie, but that's not what I made it for. I literally made this book so that I could influence other folks who are either on their way up, thinking about making a pivot, or living a life that they know could be a little more fulfilling.
They said you got to leave 9:45. Is that true?
Yeah, I'm sure we do, because it's a tight schedule.
Well, let me ask you a question. Why don't you rep the Bucs anymore, Will? I see you screaming Atlanta Falcons all day, everywhere you go. I know you're a minority owner.
No, don't do I know.
Say?
Don't. You said, why don't I rep the Bucs? So you can't context it out before you give me a chance to answer the question.
There was a time when you were the only Buccaneers fan I knew.
That many people
I'm like,
knew.
wow, he don't even rep them at all.
Well, because there's levels, sir. And I'm glad you brought that up, because there's levels. There is fandom, and I have nothing but respect for my fans. But, sir, you, of all people, know that there's also a level called ownership.
That's right.
And I want to show people that I don't care how high you can jump, how fast you can run. My 40 time ain't shit. I'm sure my left hip would have something to say if I tried to get out on a track, right? I can't throw a ball far to save my life. I definitely can't dunk. However, I am in a sports franchise. Mm-hmm. I am sitting in the owner's booth and in the owner's box. I want other people to see that possibility. And Arthur Blank, the majority owner of the Atlanta Falcons, gave me that opportunity. Now, in real talk, Charlamagne, one of the things that I really want to impress upon people I talk about in the book is that you never know who's watching. And that idea of always building your brand, like keep stacking the bricks, okay? I never thought that I was going to be an owner of a football team.
You said you were walking around delivering newspapers.
I was literally delivering the Atlanta Journal-Constitution newspaper. I was delivering them door to door. I would get up at 3 a.m. every morning. I would get in, roll my papers, put them in the back of my Honda Civic, and I would go out, and I had to have them on everybody's porch by 6 a.m. I knew my route. That's what I did, right? At that time, I definitely wasn't thinking one day I'm going to be sitting in the owner's box at the Atlanta Falcons. But you know what I did? I was the best damn newspaper delivery guy that the Atlanta Journal-Constitution had because my name was on it. So I gave it 110%. And so over a lifetime of always going hard, I then put myself in the position when somebody in power said, you know what, I'm looking to add to my ownership group. My name came up. I made the cut. A lot of people wanted to be in that position, but I made the cut because I had built a career that allowed me to do it. When you go out and work hard and build a career and a meaningful life, you never know how it's going to manifest. But that's why I rep the Falcons, sir.
I love that. But at what point did you say, you know what, F y'all Buccaneers, it's over?
Well, I don't think you have to say F anybody, but I just have to say rise up, and I'm rooting for the Falcons. Damn. Because that's where the opportunity came.
I have not seen you rep the Bucs since they won the Super Bowl.
Brother, I am a part owner of the Atlanta Falcons. What part of this don't you understand, sir?
You're right. You're absolutely right.
I am in.
You're absolutely right.
Yes, what is he doing?
You're absolutely right.
It is levels.
You're right.
Are you trying to get the ownership revoked?
No,
What's happening?
Listen,
Crazy.
I'm happy that you have. Who better than you?
You know what this is?
Trying to get
better
you
than
deported
you?
back to
It's the
Bucs.
Cowboys fan. That's what that is. They went out and hired that coach that nobody's excited about.
my God.
And they just listen,
God.
Jerry Jones, and as long as he around,
Hey,
you
man,
know.
if somebody want to make me a minority owner, I'm ready to denounce them, too. I will denounce the Cowboys in 2 seconds, okay? Will Pack, a new book, Who Better Than You? The Art of Healthy Arrogance and Dreaming Big, out right now. Always a pleasure to see you. Go out there and buy this book. Make it a New York Times bestseller, man.
Appreciate you, fam.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you. Thank y'all for having me, Charlamagne, and thank you because you are somebody that, you know, and I told you this, we saw each other at the Democratic National Convention, and I told you I had written my first book, and I was inspired by your books and by reading your books and just seeing that process and the grind that you put in. So you never know who's watching and who you're inspiring. Thank you, my brother. Thank you for having me.
It's The Breakfast Club.
Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.